I'm going to be walking through how to do a basic walk cycle. It's going to be from the side view, so nothing too complicated. We're going to be doing a pretty brisk walk because usually this is the one that requires the least amount of drawings. Walk cycle is actually pretty easy. Once you understand the steps that you need to get an animation going, all you have to do is just practice it. We did put up a Krita tutorial video, so if you don't know what Krita is, then I would highly recommend it. Krita is pretty user-friendly, pretty easy to get into. But before we do that, I am gonna just open a new file. If you're doing something really simple, it's okay to have it at a lower resolution. You can almost lower it all the way to 75 and it should be okay. I feel like 200... Actually, you know what? We'll go with 175. 175 I feel like is good enough. We'll do 11 by 12. So yeah, this looks good. So when it comes to the walk cycle, there's 4 essential steps. And the first step is called contact. And so this is the one where both feet are on the ground. That's why it's called the contact pose. But it depends on the type of step that you want. Maybe the front foot is planted and then the back foot is on its toes. It's usually kind of something like this. And if you want to keep it simple for yourself, I usually like to have it somewhat down the middle. If it's not perfectly symmetrical, it's okay. Also, the other key thing about doing a walk cycle is you want to have a grounded plane. So you can see where the character is stepping and where their feet is contacting the ground. And it's also useful to show where the head is, like maybe around here. A bottom line and a top line to show the height of the character and kind of give me an idea as to where the limits are for this character. So that's how I would set it up, especially if this is your first time animating a character. The next one is called the down pose. If you can already guess, what it means is our character is a bit lower, and the big part of the down pose is that the legs are bent kind of at their maximum. The front foot's going to be completely planted onto the ground, and then the back leg, some people draw it a bit different. Some people might have the back leg dragging. Some people might have it really low to the ground. So it honestly really is up to you. Animation, honestly, after you draw it for a while, you realize it's all just experimenting and seeing what looks good, and if you're able to capture the vibe that you want. So after the down pose, we have the passing pose. And this is called the passing pose because your body is now leaning forward. I'll just exaggerate it so you can kind of see. And then the front leg is straight. The back leg is now passing in front of the front leg. So again, dependent on the type of pose you want to do, where you have the leg that's passing might be a bit different. It'll create a different sense of weight for your character. And then our last one is called the up pose. So similar to the down pose, but complete opposite, where it's the highest point. Our front leg is now transitioned to the back leg, and this is when our body is stretched the most. Everything is hyperextended if you want it to be. And then after that, we will have our back leg now transition to the front. After the up pose, you go back to the contact pose, but this time it's the other foot in front. So somebody asked beforehand if anatomy is important. Anatomy is important, but with animation, characters' proportions are all out of whack in terms of anatomy. You look at SpongeBob, SpongeBob's a square with sticks for arms and legs. But what you do need to have is be able to draw the same character consistently. Being able to keep track of volume and space is very important for animation. If you ever want to keep track of a normal walk cycle, you want to make sure that there is a curve that's happening with your characters. And this curve should be kind of consistent with all the different parts of the body. So the shoulders, the hips, all that kind of stuff. Because if you're able to keep this consistency, then your character will look like it's moving proportionally. And the same thing can be said for the feet as well, how it's moving across the screen. It's going to be a lot longer in terms of this motion, but there is a little bit of this S-curve shape happening in the feet as well. So you want to keep track of this up and down rhythm that's happening with your character. And then the hands is up to you. Just depends on the type of character you want to draw. Usually I feel like most people walk out of sync, like their hands don't swing necessarily on beat with the legs. It just kind of, again, comes down to experimentation, trying things out, seeing what works and all that kind of stuff. These 4 steps here are the main basics. I'm giving you the rules, and then afterward, what you do with them is up to you. You can help support us as we continue to make free arts education by becoming a member on Patreon or YouTube. This will give you access to special perks like critiques and classes. So, in the speed draw / animation portion of the video, I'm going to walk through some tips and give my advice on how I took this character and animated a walk cycle with it. So here, I've taken the rough design of the cat and am now doing a cleaned up line drawing of this character. We're not going to start animating right away because we're going to start by getting a clean base model. A base model is something that you'll find on a character's model sheet, and it's there so that animators can keep track of the character's designs and how they might look in different angles. But it can also be a useful tool as you don't have to redraw your character every single time and can just trace the base model. Then you can replace the traced limb, body, head, etc. wherever it needs to be. You'll save a lot of time on checking proportions and making sure limbs are rotated in the right spot. So we want the base model to be as clean and keep the lines uniform so tracing is easy. Here I am marking height measurements for a cat. Keep measurements simple and only mark major areas. The simpler the character, the less height lines you'll need. For a walk cycle, it's probably best to at least mark the top of the head to keep an eye on height and a ground plane so the foot doesn't fall through. Now, as for layers, I want the base model to be on a separate layer, different from the one I'll be animating. As you'll see on my timeline, I duplicated the rough block layer and renamed it to be reference. And I locked my reference layer so as to not accidentally mess with it and only add frames of animation on the rough block layer. Because our cat character is so simple, I'm mostly going to just rely on the Lasso tool to help me reposition things like the limbs and the transform tool to help me adjust things like the height of the character. You'll see that I lassoed the foot and rotated it to position it properly for the contact pose. And over the course of animating this character, whether it's for the down, passing, or up pose, I rely a lot on the Lasso tool to make quick work of repositioning and rotating the limbs without the need to redraw the character. This helps the character stay consistent and maintains volume. Keep in mind that even though I'm lassoing parts of the cat to suit the next pose, I still need to fill in the blanks and keep lines clean for where things need to connect. The Lasso tool will do a lot of the work, but it doesn't mean it'll do everything, so you'll still need to draw. Now, for the arm on the other side, in order to keep it consistent in shape and look, I turned on the base model to trace over just the arm and then used the Lasso tool to position it on the other side as it peeks out when swinging to the front or to the back. This is an example of how you can use the base model and Lasso tool to help you figure things out without having to eyeball or guess how something might look on the other side. Of course, for a walk cycle to actually work, you'll need to also animate the switch up in the feet. All you have to do is simply duplicate the first 4 frames, so the contact, down, passing, and up poses, and space them out accordingly on the timeline. It's that easy, it's just copying and pasting. The switching of feet is pretty straightforward. The only tricky thing is that it can get a little confusing as you'll have to keep track of which foot is in front of which and where the arm is swinging to. This is going to sound like a funny tip, but once you've gotten all your main poses in, play your animation and just watch it. We are animating, and unless you actually watch your animation, you won't know if it worked out or not. It's also just so satisfying getting to see your animation come to life. Enjoy your animation, but also try to spot what's working and what's not. And even though in this video I'm animating a cat, the overall principles are the same. You only need the contact pose, down pose, passing pose, and the up pose. It's really that simple. But what makes a walk cycle fascinating is that you have an endless amount of possibilities when it comes to how you animate the walk cycle. Depending on the timing, the character design, the beat, and the rhythm of the walk, you really can animate an infinite amount of varying walk cycles. And now we've gotten to the end of the animation. If you end up animating your own walk cycle with these tips, let me know how it goes in the comments. Or if you have any tips for animating a walk cycle that could help others, share them in the comment below and let us know what tutorials you'd like to see us make next. By the way, you can watch my full tutorial on this walk cycle in real time with my exact process and tools. I'll link the live stream replay in the video description below. Join a virtual class to start learning from our professional artists. Get creative assignments, individual guidance, and real-time feedback on your artwork. Start today and level up your practice. If you learned something new, please like and share with a fellow art nerd, and if you love receiving free arts education, subscribe. Here's a couple other videos you can check out next.